Well, I'll tell you a story about GPS because this has happened to me in California. We used to have a map. Believe me, you couldn't find the fucking way around anywhere with these maps before computers. You would have to take a giant map out and try to figure out. Believe me, I never found my way around anywhere. And I remember I was in Venice Beach, California, and I was heading to Sepulveda Boulevard. And I was driving, and I didn't know where Sepulveda is. And of course, in LA, no one wants to talk to you. And I remember driving all the way up from Venice Boulevard and I was thinking, where is Sepulveda? Where is Sepulveda? And I hit Sawtelle Boulevard, and I made a U-turn and went all the way back to the beach. I was 1 block away. So that shows you how fucked up life was before then. Additionally, my friend had a wedding in New York in a mountain region. I don't remember where, but it was in one of these like beautiful places, but it was in a mountainous region. And that was the first time I got a Hertz car with a Hertz Never Lost. And I'm telling you that if I didn't have that Never Lost on that car, I flew all the way in for this wedding. I would have never made it. I could have never, first of all, I couldn't see the street signs. So just think, you have a map in your hand and you're trying to see street signs. You can't see them. It's dark. There's no lights on these places. So with that GPS, you were doomed. So you couldn't go anywhere. Now sometimes I try to get lost on purpose to see where my GPS will take me. I think it's the greatest thing to happen. And I used to have a Garmin. Actually, I'll tell you a story about my Garmin. I was thinking that at one time I didn't want to upgrade to not BlackBerry, to a iPhone. I had a BlackBerry. And I was really happy because of the keyboard. Don't ask me why I was stuck on this phone, but when you're a dinosaur, you're like a wooden club. What can I say? I like the BlackBerry. And I went to Costa Rica, and I said, you know what? I'm going to bring my Garmin to Costa Rica because I want to have directions. And I brought my Garmin to Costa Rica, and I rented a car. No, I didn't rent the car. My friend called me and says, Jeffrey, I'm going to pick you up. So I thought, fantastic, I don't need to rent a car. So we tried my Garmin in this car. You know that my Garmin did not work? It had no idea where we were. So I would have been driving around Costa Rica with this Garmin thinking I was going somewhere, and it had no idea where we were. No idea. Yeah, that's really what happened. And this guy picked me up, and we got around, and the Garmin was useless in Costa Rica. I thought it was going to be perfect. No. And a matter of fact, these smartphones have saved me on many trips, getting lost. Because when you get lost, like in Costa Rica, when you get lost, although, if you haven't been to Costa Rica, driving in Costa Rica is like driving through a tropical rainstorm with zero visibility, winding roads with holes in it, torrential rains, and oncoming traffic that's probably one foot away from head-on killing you. And you're going through mountains, so you can't even see that they're coming. So, and your GPS will stop working during that time. So you're basically doomed. So anyone who wants to drive in Costa Rica, God bless you. Take out full insurance because you're going to get into an accident. You're going to hit something. Something's going to hit you. It's just going to happen. So make sure 100% insurance. But I do love that city, but it's dangerous to drive. No, impossible. Matter of fact, if a job told you where they were, like I'll give you an example. When I first came to California, I got an apartment, and I didn't have any credit or anything, nothing. I had really nothing. I just met a guy, and he was a different descent than I was, a different color, skin, different descent. And he was cooking, and he says to me, "I have an apartment on Doheny and Beverly." And I didn't know where Doheny and Beverly was, nor did I have a phone that would tell me where it is, so I had no idea. And I was new in town, and I was trying to get an apartment. And L.A., nobody wants to rent to you. Nobody. Even in those days, getting an apartment wasn't possible. I had no history here. And he says to me, eat some food. And the food was look, anytime you eat food from a different culture, you don't know what the fuck you're eating, okay? You're eating something and you don't know what it is. And I don't want to offend the guy because he was telling me that he had an apartment for me, and he looked at my application, which had very little in it that was worth anything. I had just started here, and he didn't even notice it. He just went right over it. So I had to eat his food. And the food was, from what I remember, I was nervous. It was all mixed up and I didn't know what it was, but I ate it. And then he says to me, I have an apartment in Doheny and Beverly. You know where it is? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I said, yeah, I do. Goes, let me take you to it. I thought, thank God, because I had no idea where it was and I had no map. He said, let me take it to you. And I said, fantastic. I've got an apartment. He goes, it's going to require this amount of money, first and half month last, which is almost exactly the money I had. And I thought, this is my lucky day. But he wanted to have a conversation with me for a long time. He didn't care about the application as much as he cared about talking to me and chatting with me. And he was a very nice guy. I really liked him. But at the end of before I got to the apartment, because we were about to leave his apartment and go in his car, I believe, and he was going to take me to the apartment, he told me, he said, you know something? Just give me a check for this amount, but let's see if you like it. So I liked the apartment, and during the ride, I think before the ride started, he told me, you know what the problem with the world is, Jeffrey? And this was after a long 2 hours of talking, eating, and I was pretty friendly with him. I actually liked him at that moment. He said, the Jews. The fucking Jews are the problem with the world. And I couldn't say nothing to him. I just sat there and I said, I agree. I got the apartment. 2 days later, he comes by, he goes to me, are you Jewish? I said, yeah. He goes, I'm sorry. And we were pretty friendly after that, but the last second, he had to throw in the Jews. So I almost lost the apartment because I didn't want to say it. I just said, yeah, I agree. And so that was my first experience of getting an apartment. I was living in Beverly Hills. That's why I lived on Doheny and Beverly, my first apartment. I went to there was a market on the corner there, some expensive market. I ate a pizza. I had some tinfoil, and I had some milk. That's all I could afford because the Beverly Hills market was of a price range that I didn't have at that time. I barely had $1. I just had enough money for my first and last, and I got some giant TV that I got from somebody that was, you never see TVs this size, like one of these consoles that's made of wood. You only see them in the old-time movies. And that was my TV. I had a bed. I had a light on a stick, I believe, and that was it. But he came back and he apologized to me, and he actually taught me how to tie a tie because I had never tied a tie before. So my apartment manager and I became friends, even though he did not like Jews. This Jew he accepted.